Has the unthinkable really and truly come to pass? Will Frank Castle finally be forced to answer for the crimes he's committed as the Punisher? Well, let's hop into the pages of Punisher issue number 12. The grand finale of this Jason Aaron Maxi series, and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue had left off, the Punisher had finally made his choice to renounce the Beast and his amazing powers, only to be fatally shot by his wife Maria, who had finally fully realized all of the horrible things that Frank had done in her name and the names of their children since their deaths. I had assumed this big final issue was going to be about a confrontation between Frank and Maria, and ultimately it kind of is, but for this moment she's decided to slink away again. It's here Frank is once again met by the Hand Archpriestess, who uses this moment of weakness to once again try and re-establish control over the hand, which she was quickly losing to Frank. The Archpriestess says that she's disappointed in Frank turning away from the light of the Beast by choosing not to kill that boy, and then ultimately choosing not to kill the Avengers, who are actually hot on his tail and are going to be kicking down the door to this monastery any minute now, but she's not surprised. She does the whole bad guy monologue thing for a bit, saying that maybe at the end of the day Frank Castle has always been too simple to see the bigger picture, and that a killer with a conscience, a killer with rules and lines he refuses to cross, well, that's just no good for her, but maybe if she can kill Frank with his own god gun, she'll just bring him back as a hand zombie and have a second crack at this. After all, it's like the priestess says, she never assumed that Frank Castle was just going to ride off with his wife into the sunset. It's at that moment there the Punisher reveals that he actually kept just enough beast power to royally knock the crap out of the Archpriestess. Not enough to kill her, mind you, she actually slinks away as well and is implied to be a threat for another day. All of this really takes it out of Frank, and by the time he comes to, he's actually a prisoner in the basement of the Sanctum Sanctorum. It seems that Doctor Strange and the others have taken him back to New York to, well, get this, stand trial for his evil doings. Yes, that's right, everyone. What we're witnessing here is the long-awaited, much-touted final punishment of Frank Castle. Not that Frank himself seems to care all that much. I mean, what does the superhero community expect him to do? Apologize? Say that he was under the control of evil magic, that he'll never do it again? Everyone knows that's a lie. As far as Frank is concerned, the hand were just another weapon in his vast arsenal, and getting his wife back was icing on top of the cake. In fact, in a real defining moment of characterization, Frank doesn't care at all what they do to him. He only cares that Maria be allowed to keep living and not get put down like some sort of unholy zombie. Now, a really fascinating thing about this issue that I'm seeing a lot of people miss in other reviews is that for the first time ever, in all 12 issues, Frank Castle's own internal monologue returns, meaning we're actually allowed to get inside his head and hear what he's thinking. Meaning that when we once again get a series of flashbacks, we know these 100% happened from Frank's own point of view. We actually pick up with him not long after Maria and the kids' funerals. Where did the man who would be the Punisher go on the saddest day of his life? Well, he walked into a mob bar, of course. Maybe because he wanted to die, maybe because he wanted to kill. It's open for interpretation. But oh, kill he did. He killed and he killed and he never stopped. Now, back in the present, all of the different members of this Avengers team come to the basement to have it out with Frank. Wolverine is first, in classic Logan fashion. He tries to put the fear into Frank, though that doesn't work. Hell, Frank even calls Wolverine out on his hypocrisy, saying, oh, if you want to kill me and put me down for being such a bad guy, for being such a threat to the public good, you better kill yourself as soon as we're done here. Black Widow is next, and she takes a completely different, completely softer avenue, actually coming at Frank like a friend. And again, if Frank had any friends in the Marvel Universe, it would probably be Nat, someone he fought back-to-back with, bled with. But oh, Frank Castle has no time for friends, no time for family, no time for anything but his mission. And again, for the second time in this whole mock trial, Frank cares not about himself, but wants the heroes to make sure that Maria will be safe. Perhaps the strangest yet most weirdly compelling juror in this trial is actually Moon Knight. In the previous issue, Mark Spector talked about knowing a thing or two about being slave to a crappy god. And here, once again, Moon Knight actually meets the Punisher with a certain level of sympathy. After all, Mark knows a thing or two about being sick in the head, battling invisible demons, dealing with trauma. And I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense for someone like Moon Knight to be so sympathetic and think that there's light in everyone and that anyone can change. He's certainly changed a lot over the years. Frank's reaction to this, too, is really compelling as well. He argues with everyone else, but he doesn't argue with Moon Knight. In fact, he doesn't say a single single word while Spectre does his whole speechifying. It's also around here too we're treated to our final flashback. We're told in the monologue how Frank went out of his way to execute every single person involved with his family's death, no matter how minuscule. He killed them all within the span of just a few months, and the last guy who was left he got right before the lethal injection. Yeah, that's right, the Punisher broke into a prison to kill a guy even though he was about to be executed by the state. Even Frank himself has to admit there's something deeply sick and wrong about that. He could have just sat by and this guy would have died anyway, but that's not who Frank is. He's not that scared little boy from the rooftop all those years ago. Frank Castle is many things, but what he is a man who refuses to just sit idly by anymore. Now, the final juror, Frank is pretty sure is going to be Captain America. He's going to read him the riot act and make him feel really bad about himself, but no, to his shock and surprise, his final juror is actually Maria herself. Apparently, the Archpriestess had been lying about the whole she can't leave the palace or else she'll slowly deteriorate. Doctor Strange fixed her right up, and now she's finally ready to have her last words with Frank, to have the words that she wanted to have with him all those years ago before the shooting. As Maria puts it, it's not the mob, it's not the bullets who took his family away from him. Frank did it with his own behavior many years before that fateful day in the park. And ever since then, all he's done is use his family as justification for the rivers of blood that he's spilled all across the world. And frankly, Maria's done with it. She's been given a second chance at life, and she's actually really going to live it. And you know what? Frank is gonna bankroll it too. With the help of Black Widow, they actually managed to put together some sort of crazy superhero divorce settlement. All of Frank's assets, which mostly just included safe houses and weapons, have all been sold. Maria's keeping half of it, which is a considerable amount, and the rest is being donated to children's charity in the names of the kids. As Maria puts it, if he really wanted to honor them, that's what he always should have done from the start. And yeah, it's after that she leaves him crushed and broken, having lost everything that he thought he was fighting for this whole time. And yet, in a weird way, this is bittersweet. This is the best way any of this could have turned out. Maria will be allowed to live. The sins of the Punisher will not fall on her head, but what about Frank's sins? Well, he's not ready to actually hear what the jury of his peers has to say. Instead, he grabs those two beast bullets that Doctor Strange had pulled out of him, believing that they had enough residual dark energy to allow him one last spell. And with that, the Punisher just kind of poofs as Doctor Strange says that he's completely gone from existence, which is not the same as dead, but it's pretty close. But wait, don't worry, the story isn't done yet, as we're actually treated to three very unexpected epilogues. One actually sees Maria leaving New York and her old life behind with Frank's money, but also a positive pregnancy test. Oh no. We also cut back all the way to issue 1, wherein the Archpriestess first made her devil's deal to Frank. In the beginning, Punisher wanted nothing to do with this version of his wife, thinking that she was some sort of unholy zombie. He was gonna blow the resurrected Maria away until she started talking, saying that she can't remember much, but she remembers that Frank, despite all of his flaws, always kept her and the children safe. It was the most endearing thing about him, and in a way, he kind of got to do it all over again. But wait, there's more. From there, we actually flash on over to Weird World. That crazy Doug Monick Conan the Barbarian fantasy dimension. We see that Frank is actually alive and well and protecting a group of lost children. They ask him his name, and he doesn't say the Punisher, he says Frank. Perhaps implying that maybe, just maybe, Frank Castle can learn to live without the Punisher as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Punisher issue number 12, everybody, and oh boy, was this really a grand finale. I didn't know what I was expecting going into this one, and I gotta say, Aaron really did flip the script on me in the best way possible. In fact, this final issue basically confirms everything that I'd been saying from the very beginning. Frank's life is a tragedy, and this newest chapter in his story is maybe one of the most tragic yet. He was so close to almost winning his war on crime, and all it cost him was his soul. He finally got to see his wife again, but it was all twisted and wrong. Personally, I like that they leave the verdict on the final punishment of Frank Castle vague. Honestly, in my own mind, I like to think that because he stayed so true to his wife and trying to protect her, the superhero community would have gone easy on him. But because Frank is Frank and he refuses to answer to anyone, and because he refuses to stand idly by, he just chose to go to Weird World than deal with any of the fallout. There are a few superhero stories that truly, really organically feel like the final word on a character, and honestly, this does feel like Aaron's final word on the Punisher. Obviously, I don't think it's the last we're ever gonna see of Frank. He's too popular to lay lay low forever, but I think as far as swan songs go, this was a pretty damn good one. Overall, I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.